Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening or afternoon. I'm Dr. Gary Severance with Henry Schein, and I'll be your moderator for this evening's webinar. Joining us tonight are Drs. Mark Scalfani and Robert Raimonde, both prosthodontists from One Manhattan Dental in New York City. They'll be addressing how the Isolite system reduces aerosols, boosts production, and enhances patient comfort. Tonight's webinar is being recorded, and everyone will receive the link of the recording in the next week. If you have any questions for the doctors at any point during the webinar, please type them into the Q&A and we will answer them live at the end of the presentation. This webinar is presented by Henry Schein Dental, and no CE credits are being offered for viewing or attending this webinar. With that, I'd like to turn it over to the experts. Welcome.
Welcome. Hey there. Happy Monday, everybody. I'm Rob.
I'm Mark.
My right is Mark.
Rob Raimonde.
So we're joining you guys today to talk a little bit about something that we started using with COVID. When it happened, we were shut down like everybody else and trying to figure out what to do when we were going to reopen our practice. So aerosol management, droplet management became one of the primary things that we were looking into, amongst many other things. You may see us live together here wondering why we're not socially distancing. Well, every week we get COVID tested, just put that out as a disclaimer. Because of the presentation today, we went yesterday, got our results this morning before working, and so we can feel comfortable and confident being close to each other.
Fair enough.
We're lucky here in New York to have some contacts that we can get them turned around in a quick amount of time. So just to put that out there, we believe in masks and social distancing and all that good stuff too.
So I'm Mark Scalfani. I was introduced to Isolite actually several years ago by another colleague who had it in his office, and I resisted. I had an assistant. I didn't think I needed it. I was using rubber dam at the time. So I didn't start looking into Isolite until, as Dr. Rundy said, when COVID hit back in March, when I see we needed a solution for our office. We were closed March, April, May. So we did extensive research through those 3 months for different filtration systems for our office to keep the patients safe, and different suction units, whether it was extraoral or intraoral units. And that's when this Isolite came about to us. So Isolite 3 system is what we purchased for our office, which is probably the best of their system. The Isolite 3, there was no questions when I came to purchase the system, which system we're going to buy. This is the best of them. You're looking at the picture of it now. The Isolite 3, it's illuminated. It has a light piece to it, so it's illuminated in the oral cavity. The pieces are fully disposable, so we know that we could throw out each piece after each procedure. What made our team acceptable to this is that our staff felt that they were safe with this. So we implemented the system into our office. We have 8 operatories in our office. We got 1 for each operatory. We have 4 practitioners and 4 hygienists. So every one of our rooms is equipped with this system. Every one of us is using this every day on every patient.
And so we want to go over a few things, a little bit about the system and how we find it. So make sure you think about your questions. What are you thinking about using it? Why wouldn't you use it? And we'd love to engage with you at the end of this presentation and talk a little bit about how we're finding it.
So what is the Isolite system? You see a picture of it in front of you. You see a high action hose, which is hooked up to your everyday suction piece. So there was no other there was no other solution we needed from our Henry Schein or whatever provider you have to hook this up. I actually installed them all myself in every room. All 8 of them I hooked up myself.
Thank you.
There was an adapter that hooks up to everybody's high evacuation suction system. So there was no other need from a vendor to help implement this into our office. So we hooked up into our system. What it consists of is a disposable piece, which is the piece at the end of this that we throw out between each patient. It's illuminated, as you can see in this picture. There's a light on it. And we'll talk about later that the light has a mode that you can change it when you're curing a composite, so the light won't affect the composite. So basically, it's almost like a vacation for our assistants.
Well, it could be, right?
Pretty much.
And we'll go through these topics. Let's go over again. So, like Mark said, it has illumination. It's a bite block. It's suction, and it feels cumbersome at first. I feel like the first few times we used it, it was interesting, and we started by using it on each other, right? We made a commitment to buying the system and all our ops, and then we said, all right, we have it now, so let's try it. And when you first put it in your mouth, the first minute or two, your ligaments, your muscles kind of adapt to it. But then you realize that it's quite easy. And the thing I like about it, I try to always give my patients control, or at least the feel like they're in control, right? This comes in and out very quickly. So it may look like it's really getting locked in there, a big thing, but because it's so flexible and soft, it really, it retracts, it isolates, it suction, illuminates, but it actually goes in and out quite quickly.
Exactly what Dr. Ramundi is saying. So what you're looking at here is the piece that's going into the mouth. It's retracting the cheek, it's retracting the tongue, and it's acting as a bite block on the opposite side of the mouth that you're working on. So if you're working on the right quadrant, the bite block is on the left quadrant. And the cheek retraction is working on the quadrant that you're working on, and it's retracting the tongue at the same time. So it's got an integrated vacuum hose with little perforations in it for the suction, so that it will, we'll talk about later. It's going to help us with the aerosols and the small debris and the particles that we're encountering when we're preparing a tooth, when we're removing a crown, whatever it might be.
And we are on the Upper East Side of New York City. We were in the hot spot when the pandemic first occurred. So we were very sensitive to the things we'd be doing in response to everything happening where we worked and lived. So we were very committed to using it. But, once we started using it, we found that we really, really, we love it. We formed a relationship now with the company because we love it so much. We're passionate about it. We find that it helps our patients feel comfortable in this environment or beyond, and it definitely makes us work a little cleaner, a little faster, a little simpler. Especially like today we did a bunch of stuff. Luckily, we're busy today. Mark was bonding some restorations. I was doing a quadrant dentistry where I was prepping a few teeth, doing some core buildups and a composite, a crown prep, and you can do this stuff with isolation where the only solution aside from this would probably be a rubber dam, right? It's the most comparable thing.
I agree, which brings me into a rubber dam. Pre-COVID, when we started thinking about our office, what we're going to do for isolation for our patients, we compared this to rubber dam, compared to external suction units, and by far, there's no need for a rubber dam after we use this suction unit in our office. With the rubber dam, the aerosols are bouncing off the rubber dam, and the splatter is just sitting there, and it's really doing nothing for the for the aerosol protection.
You can't check occlusion with it, right? So when you're prepping a crown, you can't do it. Right. I just don't find a way to do that, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to do? I start my crown preps with occlusal reduction. How can you do that with rubber dam on? So you do occlusal reduction, then put the dam on, but you don't have like.
So you have the option of taking this out of the mouth
very quickly,
checking your bite, checking your occlusion, and placing it back in the mouth.
And you could visualize the opposing arch, which when I'm prepping teeth, I'm constantly looking at the opposing cusps to see what my path of insertion should be for my restoration to make sure that they make sense. So again, here is the apparatus here, right? Again, it looks big. Like if I haven't worked with it for a few months, I would look at this and say, wow, will my patients accept this? And I'll just say, especially in the current environment, being in New York, New Yorkers are great. I'm impressed by our fellow New Yorkers and how good they are at masks and everything else. And whenever I tell a patient we use this because of COVID, but we find that it's great regardless, it's almost adopted 100% of the time. Is it 100%? No, but is it over 90? Yes. And so like Mark said before, you can see the different parts of it.
So looking at the picture, you can see the cheek shield is protecting the shield. There's also a piece that's protecting the tongue, and then you have the vacuum. What I find the most advantage is the illumination, the light that's there. It's giving me an extra light. As a prosthodontist, we both work with headlights. I have my overhead light. I have my light on my 2.5 magnification loops, and I still appreciate having the extra magnification in the light, which trumps my headpiece. I can almost work without a light with this in place.
You have 2.5?
I use 2.5.
I'm on 4.
That's great. That's great.
His vision is better than mine. I don't even know. And so the thing that we, gravitated us towards this was really the literature, right? There's more literature supporting this in our actual practice. So, we had so many group chats with our friends and with our colleagues about what everyone was doing. And this is point of care, right? Were you doing the extraoral unit that everybody jumped onto, or were you doing this? And when you look at the literature and the actual use of those extraoral units, they have to be within a proximity of the patient.
6 inches of the mouth.
It's almost like it makes it unable for us to actually work with our handpieces. So those units are then getting pulled apart, and the air is being filtered back into your room, right? So I'm sure, fine, there's a filter on the unit, but I'm just wondering, practically, how are you really working with that device over a patient while you're prepping and visualizing and doing everything else that prosthodontists or sort of dentists do? I mean, the nice part about this is it's connected to the high evacuation suction in our office, which is away from everybody else. Even in New York City, it's in an area where nobody is. That room itself has several air filters in it to make sure everything's clean. And so the air in the operatory is getting, aside from being filtered with the external air filter that we have over your shoulder, over there. This is also the point of care. 90% of the aerosols and droplets aren't even entering the room.
So what entered my mind before purchasing this unit was we were researching this compared to the extraoral units. And I felt with the aerosols, which are already being sprayed toward the mouth, this was pulling the aerosols toward the mouth into the suction unit, as opposed to pulling them outside the mouth into the extraoral unit. And I sampled with these extraoral units, and they had to be within 6 inches of the mouth. And it was tough fitting my handpiece in there. And this would make my decision to purchase this way. We also actually, living in New York, I'm sure most of you are aware of the Comfort ship, the Navy ship that was sent up here for COVID. Upon research, I found out that in their dental clinics on the ship, they were using this
on COVID positive patients.
They were using this system in their dental chairs on the ship on COVID patients. They felt this was the best solution for them on the ship for their Navy dentists.
I did my residency at the VA, and I can tell you that you have unlimited ability to do whatever is necessary in any environment from the VA system. Yeah. So they're very generous with things, and I can tell you that the veterans that we were treating, you do top level care always. So that was a really good sign. If they're comfortable treating COVID positive patients, we should consider this.
Yeah, and what the research is showing us here is on the Petri dishes is comparing high volume evacuation compared to high volume evacuation with a rubber dam compared to the Isolite. And there's really no comparison. I mean, the rubber dam is kind of just splattering the stuff back at you. We all hate installing that rubber dam and putting it back on the tooth, and especially when we're doing an insert or a preparation. It's very difficult working with a rubber dam. And I actually purchased a rubber dam prior to this. And
we stopped ourselves believing.
And I stopped it and I sent it all back. It's so much easier working with this system.
Did we get our money back yet?
We haven't got our money back yet on the rubber dam. I'm just, my only concern is I wish I had this 10 years ago in my office. So here's a video that was showing a preparation. There's no assistant in this video. A lot of times during my preparation, my assistant is setting up for what's next, whether I'm placing cord, whether I'm making provisionals. Most of the time I can work without an assistant. However, sometimes I will still have her there with her high volume evacuation, but I'm not concerned about the patient. If I'm removing a crown, I'm not concerned about them swallowing any materials. This is blocking the tongue, blocking the cheek, protecting the airway, and getting it done.
Yeah, and so we choose to work with assistants while we're working with the Isolite. I mean, my assistant is not working any less now with the Isolite. She's still in the mouth. I mean, given where we are with COVID and everything, she's still working. I'm using the Isolite and suction, but like Mark said, Jeanette can kind of pull away for a minute, and if I'm like, okay, we're gonna do a core buildup or Vitribond or a liner, you get that out. She might pull away for a minute, and normally I would stop working and wait and stare at her and think, what's taking you so long, you know? Now I just keep going. And it offers a suction able for me to keep doing that without. So we actually, it's funny because we really did it because, like we said, because of the aerosol and droplet management. But we found that patients are releasing control to us a little more than they used to. Not that they wouldn't before, but even more. And we work faster because of it, which is not something that we didn't get it because of that, right? We didn't. People do maybe, but we're finding that it's actually helping to make us move faster in our appointments.
Isolation of the lips, tongue, and saliva is key to a successful dental appointment, as the lack of moisture and other impediments results in an efficient and optimal working environment for both the patient and clinician. While there are numerous options available for isolation for clinicians, one of the more popular options is the Isolite series of products, which includes the Isolite, IsoDry, and IsoVac.
So here are a few different options. We went with the middle one. And I guess it just comes down to budget, right? It comes down to budget. Do you want to save a little money and not get the light, or do you want to get the Cadillac version of it? I guess, right?
Yeah. For me, it wasn't.
At the practice wears both an N95 and surgical mask, a face shield, and
this was on Fox 5 News where they showed us with the Isolite system in place.
It's the same device that's used on the U.S. Comfort ship, the Navy ship that was up here for COVID-19. It hooks up to the suction. It helps control the aerosols that are being generated during an aerosol procedure. It's keeping us safer. It's keeping our staff safer.
To feel safe and secure, especially in these difficult times, it's something I'm happy to get a surcharge for something like that.
So, the question is, like, especially in the climate right now, what are you doing in your practice to help you deliver the highest level of care? And we try to do everything. And I think the thing that we also did on top of those, communicate with our team and our patients. So we sent emails out, we sent newsletters out, and we tell every patient. And it's been interesting. One thing that has happened to us since we've been reopened in June is we've got a ton of new patients leaving the practices where they went to come join us because they felt like we were doing everything possible. I mean, we were featured there in the local news. They picked us up off our social media because we were really transparent and open about what we were doing and what we thought other people should be doing also. And it's really served our business well. I mean, it wasn't really done for that intention. We did it to make our current patients feel more comfortable. And they know it's in every room. It's used with our hygienists scale with it in their mouth. They Cavitron. They polish with it. Our assistants use it when they're doing bleaching or things. I mean, we use it when we're doing, we do a hybrid of conventional dentistry and digital dentistry here at the practice. So when they're scanning, again, Jeanette will pop it in someone's mouth, or Marianne, and she'll scan the one side of the arch with it in, rotate it around, and then scan the other arch. It makes everyone's lives easier, and the patients too. Like, they feel like they don't have to try so hard to help us.
Patients really like it. And like we said, we're using it in every room. And that's the home run. We're talking about our rooms. We have 8 rooms in our office. We do dentistry in 4 rooms, and we do hygiene in the other 4 rooms. Every one of our hygienists are using them. They'll put it on one side of the mouth. The patient gets to bite down on the bite block, which is so comforting. Instead of keeping your mouth open for a 50-minute hygiene procedure, they'll clean one side of the mouth. They'll then switch it to the other side of the mouth, so the patient can now bite down on the opposite side and clean the other side. So it's a home run to me. We got this because of COVID-19, but even without it, I can't practice without it these days.
Right.
It's amazing. I really feel like I could sit down and work on my dentistry and not worry about the tongue and not worry about the cheek, not worry about when I'm removing crown and bridge, that piece of porcelain might go down the patient's throat because I'm retracting the tongue, I'm retracting the cheek. It's just amazing. It should be part of everybody's protocol.
I used to use bite blocks a lot.
I always prepped with a bite block in the mouth because I knew it was always more comforting for a patient.
Just the block, just the old
just the block. Because for a patient to stay open for a 45-minute procedure, whether it's a cleaning or a crown or a composite two-surface filling, it's hard on the jaw, on the TMJ.
Just everything, the cheek, the tongue. I don't used to use cotton rolls anymore.
So the bite block alone is making it more comforting on the patient.
Yeah, most people really, really like it.
So this is funny. This is a video of myself when they arrived. This was back in April. The office was closed. There was no patients, and my 8 Isolites arrived, and I was so happy. I lined them up on the counter.
I get the photo credit for this.
I was happy for Rob to come in and take a picture. Isolites in here. And before I can even get a Schein representative into the office, because they were even closed, I hooked them all up myself. That's how easy it was. I went into 8 rooms. I installed every one of these Isolites myself. And when COVID hit, we were back opening in June, and we were full running with 8 Isolites in every room. Before we even opened, though, we spoke about this, like Dr. Ramundi said earlier on our we communicate through our patients, whether it's through social media, through our newsletters. So everybody knew about this before they came into the office.
So when COVID happened and we shut down, we started having Zoom meetings like we are right now with our team. And we started addressing all different topics, from being laid off or not, or things we're working on in the office. And when we knew we would be reopening, we started meeting with them and talking about all the things we'd be doing. And so we bought this in like May, late April. It was April 30th, April 31st.
Yeah.
April 30th when we decided to on board with Xyrus and Isolite. Not long after that, we had a training through Zoom with all of our team. Remember that?
So we had a Zoom training with all of the team. I happened to be in the office that day, so I was sitting here with the system. And
you really get the chair, right?
Everybody was home. I mean, I'm in my operatory now. I could show you later. But I was in this office. I had the system present, and we had training for the whole office. And the system wasn't here, but everybody got to learn about it and know about it. And then once we were ready to open, it was in every room and ready to roll from day one.
So the hygienists came back, and you know, hygienists were more afraid than most other professionals because they were listed as the most at risk of any profession.
Correct. And
so what they did before we started seeing patients is they practiced on each other with the Isolite and scaling and doing things. And I got to tell you, we didn't lose one employee. A lot of offices in places like where we are reopened with compromised teams. Everyone didn't return, but we did not lose one employee. I'm very proud of that. I feel really proud. I think things like Isolite really contributed to that. And so they were able to sit down, work on each other and test it out and play around with it, the settings, the lights, and feel comfortable and say, wow, this is something very different and significant than what we've done previously. It's funny because we talk about it a lot, and we were so late to the boat. It's like, why aren't more people talking about this? Why aren't more people? It's funny because I would talk with friends before COVID that were using Isolite, and everyone would always praise it. And I never really jumped on
I board. Always looked at Isolite as someone who didn't have an assistant in their office. Yeah. And it's so much more. Quite the opposite. It's so much more than that. Our hygienists praise us every day. It's like having an assistant in the hygiene room.
It's like an extra assistant. Some are like 2 assistants. Yeah. Right? 2 assistants. And
this is us. We're just showcasing our office. We were lucky to
it's a nice picture, right?
Renovate our office right before
we invested a bunch of money last year to renovate.
Just show, it's important to us that we communicate with our team and communicate with our patients. And you'll find that with the Isolite, the communication is everything. When you first present it to a patient, they may
grab one from me.
Yeah, I'm going to show it to you here.
So it comes in a box, and the thing we liked about Isolite, opposed to the other systems that are in the mouth, point of care, is that it comes in a box. You show it.
So here's the box. This is a medium box,
and there's
keto, there's small, there's medium, there's large, there's extra larges. Extra small. I have to check, but I think there's 6, 7 sizes. Everyone is individually wrapped
and disposable.
So we show them to our patient. And it's good to give them a little education because they're a little taken back when you first show it to them. But I haven't had any resistance from any patient.
It's just a message to your patients to say that this is for you. We're using one for you. And maybe if you put the wrong size, you're using 2 or 3, whatever, fine. But it's really important that you communicate the things that you're doing because it sets you apart. It's a nice opportunity, right?
And part of the learning experience training our staff is Xyvis Isolite sent us a box of different sizes to try on each other. So you get accustomed to which size you need per patient. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but
I still don't get it right every time.
No.
Right?
Most people are medium. You have some smalls and a few larges.
And so again, how do we introduce it? So we used COVID, and we still do today, given the numbers, despite the news of the vaccines. We say this is something we've implemented because of COVID, but we'll continue to use beyond this pandemic.
Correct. Our first implication of purchasing the system was for COVID. Now that we look at it, we would have purchased it even without COVID. There's more advantage for us and the patient, regardless of the aerosols.
Yeah.
But the aerosols is a big part of this. 90% of the aerosols are being removed through this device. I don't think any extra oral suction unit, any rubber dam is going to come close to those results. So here, this is actually the room that we're in now. I can take a step back and show you here.
There's a plant here, but not in the picture.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to show you that it's installed.
So you have 2 high evacuation, right? So the Isolite is connected to one. The other one's there. So you have to have another high evacuation suction in your unit, or there's a device they give you to adapt, like a little. What do you call it?
It's like a T device, and I can even show you here. In my chair, I actually have 3 suction units. The slow speed, the Isolite, and the high speed evacuation system. So the Isolite is teed off of the high volume evacuation unit.
So when we're working, we are choosing to use both the Isolite and the high evacuation. Sometimes my assistant can't fit in with the high evacuation, so she'll switch to the low.
And if you need the saliva ejector, it's still available. You can still use those devices during the procedure.
I mean, the one thing you have to make sure is that you clean them frequently. In our office, we make sure that we have a team member doing it once a week to make sure that everything is clean. I mean, like full, and we clean it throughout the day in every patient, but we do a full filter.
What we mean by cleaning?
I don't even know what they do.
Cleaning is clean. What we mean by cleaning is cleaning the lines like you would do in every high evacuation system.
Yeah.
There's a piece here, as you could see, that plugs into the system. These are autoclavable. I just took this out of a bag, and this hooks right into the system. And then the disposable mouthpiece will hook right into this. This is the mouthpiece that I showed you. This happens to be a medium out of the box, and it comes in several different sizes.
And so, again, our hygienists really feel comfortable with it. And they like working with it. And the nice part is that before you use an Isolite, part of what you're doing is to try to gain control of the patient. Once in a while, a couple of times a year, I end up doing a hygiene appointment because whatever happens in my schedule, whatever the patient's there in my chair, they need one. And I'm lucky to have an assistant while I'm doing that. I mean, I can do a cleaning in 20, 25 minutes, a full cleaning, everything with my assistant. It just speeds everything along. Well, we find that our hygienists work a little more streamlined now. They're more comfortable. The patients are talking less. Not that that's a good or bad thing, whatever. They're allowing patients to be cared for a little more openly because that they kind of give control to the hygienist.
We're talking to doctors here. What I find, a lot of doctors, I'm not sure if you guys have the same experience. lost a lot of hygienists during COVID. They were put on the top of the pyramid along with morgue workers at the highest level of risk through COVID. So this is giving them a little bit more security, making them more comfortable to go home to their family, knowing that they're less at risk. And it's also making them easier to do their job. From the picture, you can see the Isolite has a retraction on one side of the mouth. The hygienist is cleaning the lower right quadrant. She'll be able to clean the lower right quadrant and the upper right quadrant. And then she'll switch the Isolite to the opposite side of the mouth to clean the left side of the mouth. So it's only been moved once during a hygiene appointment. So it's easier for them, I find. It's like working with an assistant, and it's making they feel more comfortable going back to their families.
And so the thing we really love in our room is that our assistants can move ahead of us, like we said previously, without having to stop, right? That's a really cool thing, especially for a nervous patient or a busy patient. I mean, right now we're in New York and a lot of people come in for the day and get a few doctor's appointments. So they're leaving us, going somewhere else or coming from somewhere. They're just a little amped up. Mm-hmm. I mean, New Yorkers I have to, again, commend our city for taking it so seriously, and everyone's wearing masks. I have to tell every patient to take a mask off. It's like, okay, can you take your mask? I need to get to work. So it allows us to move quickly, which really make our patients feel comfortable.
Also, what I recommend, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, it's also by retracting the cheek and the tongue, it's protecting the airway. So when we're removing old crown and bridge or old alloys, amalgam restorations,
they might just drop into it.
It's all going right into the suction unit. Yeah. Nothing's going down the airway. Yeah. If there's large pieces, your hygienist will be using the high volume suction unit, but 90% of the old amalgam and broken restorations are being absorbed with the Isolite.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be removing an old crown or inlay onlay and kind of like, pop it off. It'll just drop into the basket of the Isolite. And so if you look at that patient right there, you'll see that it might just fall right into the patient's mouth. It's a pretty cool thing. It's interesting when it pops down and you see a crown sitting there. You're like, it's just right where they are. Normally you'll pack the mouth with gauze and try to really protect the airway, but it's mindless with this.
And as far as cleaning the unit, I'm going to show you this piece again. This is an autoclavable piece that hooks up to the suction unit. Each system comes with 6 of these, so there's enough to get through your day. And so there's the only cleaning of this gets rinsed and it gets autoclaved, and then the rest of the piece is disposable. There was one of the questions that came about. So the main piece that's in the mouth is being thrown out after the procedure.
And so not to say it another time, but we didn't get this because of efficiency or chair time, but we find that we are able to execute treatment faster, which, in this environment or in any, I mean, listen, how many patients want to be in your chair? How many patients love coming to the dentist? I mean, maybe they love coming for a cleaning, but they don't want to get their mouth drilled on, right? So you can really work quickly. And once the patient gives control of you, you just can move. You move so quickly.
I agree with that. I find my workload is much more efficient. I'm finishing my preparations without having the patient have to get up, spit out, rinse. It's just so much more efficient. It's almost like being an artist, what we want to do. We're sitting there, we're preparing teeth. I only remove that when I'm done and the patient rinses out. I'll place cord with that. I'll rinse if I use Traxident,
whatever it is,
whatever it is.
If you're placing cord, you whatever it is, it's
reducing chair time minimum 20% by doing this. We all know all our patients that want to get up in the middle of procedure, rinse out. There's no saliva in their mouth. They just want to get up, rinse out, go back down.
There's no saliva.
There's no need for that.
And then they're rinsing for like 2 minutes. It's like, what? Why are you still rinsing? It's like,
exactly.
What are you doing up there? What are you doing up there?
So as far as,
so look, if you're worried about efficiency, it's more efficient. If you're worried about creating a better patient experience, it's better.
So it's very efficient for quadrant dentistry. This picture here is showing the lower left quadrant. You could prepare.
What are they prepping? Look at that picture.
It's a round burn. What that is.
That's like a virgin tooth. What are you doing?
You could prepare 18, 19, 20, 21 without having the patient to get up and rinse and spit out. You finish your preparations. You may have to take it out of the mouth to verify your occlusal reductions. Basically, you're getting through your whole preparation phase without any interruption. You're really concentrating on your dentistry more than the patient getting up and rinsing out and drying.
So here's one of our hygiene opportunities, and a few things to note. You could see the Isolite on the lower left. There's a high evacuation funnel for the patient to rinse. Again, in our hygiene ops, especially, we're having patients rinse with those to help to collect aerosols and droplets. And then the Isolite is there on the left. On the lower right, on the floor, that cylinder-looking thing is an air filter. When the weather, when it's not too hot or not too cold, we crack the windows open. And we're trying to create an environment that it's really clean and comfortable for everyone.
I want to answer a question from Dr. Sarmiento. I just see a message came about. I know Dr. Sarmiento is a periodontist in New York. His question is, how do we manage patients with severe trismus due to TMJ? This is a home run for TMJ patients. The fact that they're biting on a bite block and not trying to keep their mouth open for a 45 minute to an hour appointment, maybe 2-3 hours if you're preparing a quadrant of dentistry. So they're biting down the whole time. So we all know that the muscles are more relaxed when you're biting down as opposed to trying to force the jaw open. So if I'm working on the lower left quadrant, the bite block's on the right side, the patient's biting down, I can do my dentistry, and there's no stress on the TMJ, no stress on the muscles. It's a home run for all of us.
And the thing is, it doesn't look like it's as easy as it is to come in and out, but it really can. The rubber is really soft and flexible, and it pops out pretty quickly. So I even tell my patients, I go, listen, here's the deal. If you want, if you need to take it out, just tell me. It takes 1 second. You can pull it out yourself, or I can take it out, whatever you want. And you notice that people kind of feel a little more comfortable with this huge thing in their mouth.
There are times that you have to take it out of the patient's mouth, that they raise their hand, they want to rinse out, and it's just pulling it out and placing it back in.
Not a big deal.
It's not a big deal at all.
It's easier than you think it'd be, right?
It really is.
It really is.
It really is.
All right. So that wraps up.
Great. I've got a few more questions for you. I have to say that
I noticed there was a.
Yeah,
I noticed,
have
Gary,
to say,
there's a question about the.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we interrupted each other. Let me let you
Go
speak
ahead.
first.
I just wanted to say
there was a question about the front of the mouth. And I actually used this Friday on a patient. I was doing some anterior teeth. It actually still works well. Whether I'm working in the front of the mouth, I still appreciate having the bite block on the side. Sometimes I have to switch it a little bit more often from one side to the other. The only tooth I find I get in a little trouble with is maybe the cuspid, because I'm on the borderline of I'm close to the plastic.
Flip it around.
But a lot of times I'm prepping and it's almost indestructible. I've actually hit it with my burr, and it's not a problem if you drill into it a little bit. A lot easier than drilling into the tongue or the cheek. It's very durable. You won't destroy the product, but I do use it on anterior teeth also.
Great. I do have to say, guys, I want to compliment you. That was one of the most compelling programs I've heard about a product and a process. The biggest question I have, and I think you answered it several times, the idea of the Isolite was created in 1984. So what did take you guys so long?
Crazy. Crazy.
And now you say you can't practice without it.
I resisted it for guys that didn't have dental assistants.
Yeah.
Put COVID behind you. Forget COVID.
Right.
There's no reason not to have this in your office with or without COVID.
I don't know what. I think we get used to working the way that we work, right? And
we've all hit tongues. We've all hit floor of the mouths with our hand pieces.
It's not, the funny thing is it's not that expensive. It's not that big of a deal to bring it in. It's really not.
It's nothing. It's
look, we don't back many products like this. We don't. We like Mark and
Right.
I.
I'm excited. I'm excited every day to use this.
It's fun to see the excitement, about it.
You're on the world. We have a fairly high profile practice, or whatever.
Yeah.
And we don't choose to back many things. But when Zyrus, Rolando, Lexi, and her bun asked us to help support.
Singular. Make sure
you get into the research, and with the Petri dishes and the 90% aerosol, that's all proven it's 100%.
Yeah.
But day in, day in, even without that, it's a no-brainer how easy it makes our practice.
A couple more questions if we could. And this one was early on, and I think you referenced it a little bit. It was when you were talking about, replacing the rubber dam, not using the rubber dam because of the spatter coming back off it a little bit. The question was, what about the removal of alloys and airway protection that the rubber dam gives you? Does this do the same?
I saw that. I thought I addressed that, but 100%, there are no debris going down the airway. Whether you're cutting through an old crown and the porcelain is flying off, the porcelain may not get absorbed into those small holes, but it's sitting against the plastic, and you can pull it out with your college pliers instead of going down the airway or getting stuck through the throat.
I think holistic.
Same with the amalgams. If you're obliterating amalgam, it's all going into the suction device.
Right. So the holistic dentists were the ones that used those extraoral devices, right? The
mounted on the ceiling. What is that going to do for you?
Yeah, or the vacuum unit in the op, they would use the suction here, the funnel, but they would put it there, they turn it on, it's noisy, the air is being released back into the operatory, and there's no way to guarantee the proximity to the mouth. And so I know a lot of people that jumped onto that because of the optics of it, but in the actual use of it, because of the distance from the mouth, you have to question the actual efficacy of it on a real practical level. This is 90% every time.
And those extra oral devices, be honest with you, I sampled one of them, and there was none of the amalgam coming out of the mouth into those devices. It's all sitting on the floor of the mouth. It's taking the aerosols, which would normally go into the mouth, it's pulling them out to the mouth, into the air, hopefully into that device.
Yeah, it's all optics. From our perspective, it's optics. People do it to the way it looks.
Our water and air is being directed toward the mouth, and this is absorbing it.
You see it happen. As you're prepping, you see it going, and our assistants are there to get the rest.
Well, Zyrus has a video that'll actually show. It's a colored video, and you'll show the air going toward the mouth.
Yeah, and as you know, infection control is layered or bundled. That's why you have source control, which you're doing with the Isolite is number one. That's the best way to do it. But you also have the air purification system also working for you. So you're, taking all precautions there. A question, I think it's very good. Well, let me ask, who places the Isolite in your practice?
Everyone.
In the room, the hygienist place it in their room. Yeah, okay. I personally like to place it in my room instead of the assistant.
Me, it depends. My assistant will place it. I'll place it. Whomever.
Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter.
And now it's been so routine. How the patient's coming back. Oh, you're going to use the device.
Patients will do it now.
Are you going to use the device that the hygienist used in her room?
He'll give it to them. He'll put it in. I'll get back.
With the question related to that,
if it's the first time, I like to do it. I like to explain it to the patient. I actually had one patient say, "Oh, I'd like you to explain it to me. Explain how it works." And I think it helps if you explain it to them first.
And I know they have, and you mentioned several sizes. A good question here is, how do you know which size to pull out and try on?
So there's a little gauge that comes with it. Here it is on the box.
Great.
So I actually use my fingers in the mouth and check. It's funny. So I did that this morning, and I realized I placed one that was a little too small.
Yes.
I had a newer patient. I had a newer patient, and I underestimated it. I was like, I really should have put a larger one in there.
So if that happens,
it's not that much money.
You can replace it. Less than $2 a piece, I think. Or you can push it further back in the mouth, just like a bite block, and you'll get a little bit more opening.
More retraction.
If you need to replace it, you replace it.
Yeah.
I think I've had one patient that resisted it since we've been using this since June. And we have 8 operatories. So we're 6-7 patients each. We're probably using 50 of these a day.
Yeah, I guess somewhere between a couple percent out of the totality that are not using.
It's the same that you're going to get a patient that you have to use a quadrant tray on. You can't use a full arch impression. They're going to
No matter what you do.
No matter what you do.
There's always someone.
In general, it's not worth talking about the complaints from a patient. They're so far and few in between.
And just to go back, can we see where you teed off the HVE? Is that possible to see, or that's below? One of the questions was, it doesn't go into the saliva ejector, does have to go on.
So let's see if we can actually see this. So
You actually could. I'm gonna just
we're gonna move the
get down
laptop.
here.
Okay.
So
Watch everything.
Okay.
Right.
So this is teed in under my unit. It's split off the high vacuum.
Yeah.
Lift it back up. And then if you look at my chair here, I have my saliva ejector.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle, I have the Isolite. And on the left, I have my high vacuum.
Do you have
If I take my Isolite here, this is the disposable plate piece
that goes on?
that goes onto this.
So do you have two high vacuum? Do you have two high vacuum on your thing?
I have two high vacuum.
All right. So Mark has two high vacuum, but you can which room has? There's some rooms that have one high vacuum, the T that you installed.
So if there's one high vacuum,
Yeah, that's what the question was.
We might go mobile here, guys.
you want me to show you this? Let's see if I can show you this. Here, let me walk around with this. So here we go. We're here. So here we go. This particular chair has one high vacuum,
Okay.
and I'm going to take it down.
Oh, okay, perfect.
And Isolite provided us with this T here.
Okay.
So this piece goes into the high vacuum. This will go down to the Isolite, which will come up to the chair.
Yep.
And the other part of the T goes right to the high vacuum unit. And this is the hygiene room. She probably doesn't even need a high vacuum unit, but she has the option of a saliva ejector, the
Yep.
Isolite,
Perfect.
and the high vacuum right here. And there's
Great. Yep.
So even if there's only one high vacuum in the room, you can run it off of that.
That's great. And Xyrus helped you with that.
That
with the
particular chair.
Yeah, they provided that for us. Yeah.
None of that was extra. That was all included in the box. Every box came with the six autoclavable pieces that hook into the unit, and then the disposable pieces go on top of this.
And just to clarify, the Isolite itself, the portion that goes in the patient's mouth is disposable. You can't
All
autoclave that.
disposable.
Yeah.
Each one
Yeah.
comes in an individual package bag here.
So the patient
I
feels
noticed
good
some
with it.
companies that making them autoclavable.
Yeah.
I can't see that. The amount of debris that
Yeah.
gets caught in here in the pores.
It's just who wants that responsibility? You know,
I
if
don't
you
see
what?
it.
If you have 7 to 8 hygiene patients a day in each room,
That was my first concern when I purchased the system. Wow, why can't they be autoclavable? Now
Okay.
that I use it,
But
I
it-
wouldn't want this autoclavable in my mouth. And I
Yeah,
can see the reason why.
and the discomfort.
growth.
And Xyrus doesn't
Why is it-
Xyrus only recommends disposable as it's a class 1 medical device as
Right.
well.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
real important for that.
And
And
the Isolite 3 should be the only product on the market.
Yeah.
This is
I don't know if you mentioned it, but I think you also have a light on there that can turn protect
that's-
from
really
composites.
get into the details with the light. So the light has an illumination factor, and it also has a filter that will turn it to an amber color if you cure composites.
So it won't cure the composites, right?
It will not cure the composite.
While you're placing. That's
Here
great.
it is right here.
It's hard to see on the computer, but
No, you can see.
I don't
Yeah.
think you can see it. I'm changing
And
it.
that way, when you're bonding, you're no
So
risk
there's
of.
look at the illumination. When I turn this on high, it lights up the whole mouth. And
Yeah.
then I can illuminate it into
I think
the
that's
orange
great.
when I'm curing composites. So you can complete the whole procedure. The only time you need to work without this is when you're checking your occlusion afterwards.
And it's not considered medical waste, correct? When you're tossing them.
No, but it's rubber. It's like a piece of rubber dam that you're throwing out.
Okay.
That's all it is.
We're getting some great questions. Yeah. And one from a current Isolite user, she says she gets backsplash sometimes. Is there any procedures that putting
No.
it deeper into the mouth or?
I would check her suction capability to make sure her suction is clean.
Okay.
I find if mine is not working properly, the first line of defense is to check my filter on my main suction unit in the office.
Your op suction, right? The little
the filters in your operatory, just
Yeah.
like we all have our saliva ejector slow down at the end of the day. And if you're not cleaning them properly, it runs about the same pace as our suction units, a high evacuation or a saliva ejector.
Yeah, I would check their high back, their actual suction unit, how old it is, how good it is, how strong it is. Their local Schein rep could probably help them with that.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the Isolite, because when this thing is running, it's better than my high evacuation unit.
That and this assistant.
Yeah.
And the question would be, are they using an assistant or not? Because I mean, we choose to because of our style of practice, where we are, how we, our reality in the world. So when I'm prepping, I do have my assistant suctioning with the Isolite.
If you're using the Isolite, I guess the unit is drawing more air with
still so much
with 3 holes open.
So much suction, like we have so much suction.
Yeah.
One of the photos somebody commented on was in your hygiene advantages to the hygienist. They saw also a saliva ejector along with that. Is that common for your practice also? Or does the hygienist just use the Isolite?
They use a little bit. I mean, each hygienist will use what they feel comfortable with. So a few of them will hold the high evacuation with the Isolite in as their Cavitron, right? Ones that have younger children or whatever. A few of them will just put the saliva ejector in the side with the Isolite, and then they'll Cavitron. And some only use the Isolite.
It's a personal preference.
Yeah.
I personally don't think you need the saliva ejector. If you're using the Cavitron, maybe, and it's spitting out a little bit more water than normal, maybe you'd want that.
But Christy is using both.
Yeah.
Amy and Jess use just the Isolite.
I find when I'm preparing
clinician
chairside, I'm not
preference.
using the saliva ejector.
Yeah. It's just preference then.
Preference.
Yeah, it's preference.
I mean, whatever you feel comfortable with. 90% is being evacuated when you're prepping at high speed. So when you're scaling, it's minimal. But you know what? The beauty is, as a practice management standpoint, if your team feels comfortable, they're going to be better at what they're doing. So whatever.
Yeah, exactly. One of the questions was based upon the scientific literature you showed in one of the slides, where it showed a rubber dam, HVE in the colony forming units just outside was dramatically reduced, or not even there, with the Isolite. Right. One of the participants tonight asked if they could get a copy of either that slide or the references.
Absolutely.
I'm sure Lexi can get that too.
Lexi, if you don't mind, please sharing that for us, please.
I mean, the beauty of this is you take out the operator issue, right? So with the high evacuation extra oral unit, if it's not positioned properly, you're done. It's over. It's either in or out. Like it's black or white. It's in the mouth or it's not in the mouth. And so if you're using it, you're using it. Where those funnels, once you have to get your handpiece around to do something, and you kick that thing back an inch.
Yep.
It's like your curing light. Like if you understand how curing light works, right? As you back off a millimeter or two,
less effective.
It's not linear.
It's not effective. Yeah.
It's not linear. It's a logarithmic thing. So it's exponentially decrease the effectiveness of it.
Yeah.
There's no comparison. That you can't compare it to the external devices. That thing has to be almost on top of the mouth.
It's impossible to work with.
It's impossible to work with. Yeah.
You can teach old dogs new tricks, huh?
No, but I feel this is not teaching new tricks. This is, once you put it in, you're doing dentistry like we did 20 years ago, 50 years ago. It doesn't interfere. Yeah. It's not like practicing any different, Scanners are out now. Some people don't like scanning. They'd rather take impressions. Yeah. This doesn't alter the way I practice dentistry. It makes it easier. Yeah. Because external devices will alter in the way I was practicing dentistry. I was turning my arm this way. I'm holding.
It's like when you took on magnification, correct?
Exactly.
You wouldn't do it.
Magnification
just made you better.
Even with Isolite, people told me at first with Isolite, you're going to hold the handpiece different. I don't find that. I'm not altering the way I practice.
Maybe a little bit, but like not in a way that is
not at all
an issue.
Yeah. It's going to make you a better dentist. At the end of the day, we'll all be dentists. Everybody would be a better dentist if we were using Isolite. I swear by that.
That and can't practice without it are two wonderful
Cannot practice without it.
statements
It's like stupid to not have it.
I will never practice without it.
Wow, beautiful.
They should be paying us.
I'm too excited about it.
Yeah, I can tell. Well, it was wonderful to meet you both, and so happy
great.
to see how you guys can practice together.
Glad to
and have
share our
this much
experience.
fun.
If anybody has any questions about this, they can reach out to us. You can give us our information, social media.
Dr. Mark
Scafani, Dr. Raimondi,
One Manhattan Dental, Instagram.
Beautiful
Check us
website.
out.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be glad to share any experiences with this.
DM us. We're here for you.
Guys, thank you so much. And if anybody else has any questions, they can send to us as well, and we'll get them to you, and Lexi as well from that standpoint. And we just wanted to thank everybody for attending tonight.
Thank you.
Have a very safe night and a safe weeks upcoming from that standpoint. And certainly I really appreciate the enthusiasm. And certainly when we look at products that can make your dentistry better, it's wonderful. If anybody that's attending has any questions or concerns or topics,
I'm ready to go.
we can still hear you.
I can go for another hour with this.
I know.
I'm just getting, we're just getting started. We're
I'll
so
hang on
passionate
from you.
about this.
I'm a big fan, so I'll stick around. But
Well, I just started.
I'm not done yet. I was ready to prep his teeth right now and show you.
I don't even need veneers. Let's do it though. Yeah.
And thanks for the tour of the office. That was good too. But you can email us at Henry Schein with webinars at henryschein.com with any questions following this. This has been recorded. So in about a week, everybody that's attended will get an email saying where they can see it. Or if somebody wasn't able to make it that signed up, they can get that as well. All right.
All right.
You guys,
good night, everyone.
Have
Be
a great
well, be
dinner.
safe, have fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Make a
Thanks,
difference.
guys.
Thank you for your time.